Good afternoon, everyone. The time now is about 4 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, May 21st. And this is the second workshop in this week's series focusing on wellness, weight loss, weight management. Yesterday's topic was the basics of intermittent fasting. And today we will be talking about meal planning for weight loss. So if you have been looking for some information on how to manage weight, or lose weight or trying to re-kickstart a weight loss journey, then you are in the right place today. Today's session will be recorded, and if you need to watch it later, you will have the resources and slides that I will be showing today. Those will also be available for download. My name is Asia Simpson. I am your wellness and benefits consultant, and I support your district with all things wellness related education, things of that nature. And without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with sharing my screen. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into the content for today. And we'll start off with really looking over what we'll be covering in terms of the meeting objectives. So, one of the most important things that is going to be critical as you embark upon your weight management or weight loss journey, or even just a healthy eating journey, is making mindful choices. And so we'll discuss a little bit more around what that means to make mindful choices. And then we'll hop right into prepping for meal prep. Well, can you really prep for meal prep? Yeah, actually you can. And there's some important information that you definitely want to be thinking of as you get yourself in the mindset of preparing your meals for the week so that you can set yourself up for success. We'll talk a little bit about what's in a calorie because that's actually going to be kind of important. And we will talk about calculating your TDEE, and we'll discuss what that is. And then we'll do a little bit of discussion around meal prep one-on-one. I'll show you some resources you can use, and then we'll close out today's workshop. All right. Making mindful choices. So I talked about making mindful choices, and that being very critical, regardless of if your journey is for weight loss or weight management or just healthier eating choices. And making mindful choices can ensure that you create habits on purpose that are going to serve you in the long run. And so, one of the top things that is important is um, obviously, food selection, what you put into your body is going to be important. And as it pertains to when you go to the grocery store or when you purchase anything in any place, it's important to read the labels. You want to know what is in the food that you're actually consuming and putting into your body and using as fuel. You want to pay attention to calories. I mean, you don't necessarily have to count calories. It is helpful if you are right in the beginning to keep you on track and to keep you focused on what you should be eating and shouldn't be eating. But even if you're not tracking calories, you still want to have an idea of what you're consuming. So that's important. And eating reasonable portions. So eating reasonable portions is extremely important, especially if you're not tracking calories. Um, because unfortunately, in today's day and age, when we eat, a lot of the food that is provided to us is provided in excess. And sometimes that can be a habit that we carry through into our home life. We go out to a restaurant, we get these massive portions of food, and sometimes feel compelled to eat them. And so, the reality is we don't have to eat them. You can immediately ask for a to-go box and split that in half. Moderation can be a really great friend to you when it comes to making mindful choices. The other thing that makes things far more simple for you when it comes to paying attention to the foods that you eat, the food selection and the portions, is cooking and eating at home. You have so much more control over the ingredients that are used. You can control how much quality fruits and vegetables, oils, all types of things that are going into the creation of whatever your meals are, you can control that. Sodium and sugar are another thing that you want to be very cognizant of. And if you're cooking and eating at home, you can control that. But if you're not cooking and eating at home, you want to make sure as you're looking at those food labels, you want to be looking for excess sugar and lots of saturated fat. Those two things can very much contribute to weight gain, but also they're a huge culprit in diabetes and cholesterol. So that's something that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to. And making mindful choices really means that you're being here in the moment and paying attention and being very intentional with what you consume and intentional with your eating habits. So becoming the biggest loser of weight. And if you've ever seen the television show The Biggest Loser, I mean, they do a lot of extreme things. People who would like to lose lots of weight. There's a lot of extreme things, but you don't necessarily have to do extreme things. And so I've kind of listed out some things that are green for go, yellow for kind of slow your roll or limit them or only every once in a while to consume. And then things that you really want to try to avoid as much as you possibly can. You always want to go for whole foods, fruits, veggies, whole grains, beans, nuts, fish, preferably oily fishes that have omega-3 fatty acids like your salmon or your mackerel. Those are two really good ones, mackerel in particular. Skinless poultry, and lean animal proteins. So skinless chicken and turkey. I really don't want to say any red meats because those are things you kind of want to slow your roll on. But plant-based proteins are really good as well. So those are things you can fill up on that most people don't really get enough of. In the yellow slow your roll or limit column, you really want to limit the sweetened drinks for a number of different reasons. Number one, if you're pre-diabetic, you really want to be careful about the consumption of sweetened drinks because if they are not diet, then they can contain tons and tons of sugar. But if they are the diet where they have the sweetener and they're sugar free, you still want to keep an eye out for those because for some people they can cause stomach issues. For other people, they just don't sit well with them. And over in the long run, they may not be the best option. So you really want to kind of make sure you slow your roll in terms of those. Once in a while are good with the sweetened drinks. High sodium and salty food. Myself included, I am a salty food eater. However, it can really cause and wreak havoc on blood pressure and the balance of water that's necessary in your body. If you have too much sodium, then you may retain water. If you don't have enough sodium, that could be problematic. So maintaining a healthy balance with salty foods, and a lot of times you can rectify that by if you're consuming a food that's pre-made or it already has some sort of salt in it, you may want to reconsider adding additional salts. The other things you want to slow your roll on are fatty or processed red meats. That's just something you really want to do every once in a blue moon. It can cause some real issues from a blood pressure and cholesterol standpoint. And stay away from refined carbohydrates, like added sugars. Sometimes it is there's the idea that, oh, I'll get oatmeal and that will be great. Well, you want to make sure that you take a look at labels because some of the oatmeals that are out there that are more popular contain lots of added sugar and they may not be as healthy for you as you think. Full fat dairy products, I think, sometimes that can be based off of your health scenario, but I would always say make sure that you're checking that you're not consuming too much full fat dairy products. I know that there are some diets that do rely upon heavy fats, but over time that can cause issues with cholesterol and plaque buildup in your arteries. So you want to be careful with that. And then tropical oils such as coconut oil and palm oil, those aren't necessarily the greatest for you. you really want to stick to avocado oils and olive oils. Those two oils are really, really great oils to use. And avocado oil is a very neutral oil, has a high smoke point. So you're able to use it with a lot of different things. So I would stick to slowing your roll on your tropical coconut oils and palm oils. And things to really try to avoid are processed foods. That's when you go into the grocery store, that's that whole middle section. And it really would behoove you to just stay away from the middle section if you can. Um, it just doesn't have a whole lot of good things in it. It's a lot of things that are pre-processed and have a lot of genetically modified materials in them that can wreak havoc or stir up allergies in a lot of people. And then trans fats and partially hydrogenated oils found in baked goods that are like your baked muffins and cakes and all of that, or in fried foods. So those are things that you will want to consistently try to avoid. And that, coupled with some of the other tips that I'm going to provide to you today, should help you with your weight loss journey significantly. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. All right, so the thing about lifestyle changes, and honestly speaking, when you are working to lose weight, that's a lifestyle change. They're not mindless, they are intentional. And if they are done over time, then they become a habit, they become a part of your life. And that makes this whole process of losing weight or managing your weight not necessarily a process or a journey, but a part of the way that you live your life. But in the beginning, it does require commitment. And I don't want anyone to think that in order to be successful with the weight loss journey or losing weight or managing your weight, that you have to always be motivated. The unfortunate part is that most of the time you may not be motivated. So, you still have to really be able to have enough commitment to still stick with whatever plan you decide or whatever you come up with is the direction you want to take. Be committed to it and be consistent with it so that you can actually see, results. The other thing that is extremely important, I think, as you start to formulate in your mind what you're going to do and how you're going to go about losing your weight or managing your weight, is being realistic. It serves you no purpose to do a fad diet that is going to be extremely drastic, and you may possibly lose weight, but then the problem is oftentimes people gain that weight back, and it makes you feel even worse the second go round because you did it, and then now it's like, okay, do I have to go back to those drastic changes in order to get back to where I was? And the problem also becomes is, can you maintain it? So, and you must have something about what you're doing. There has to be a desirability factor. There has to be something that you like about it, or something that um, you can enjoy about it. It can't be a journey, and it can't be so inflexible that you absolutely hate it, because no one is able to sustain a way of life that they absolutely hate. And you want to make sure you have some flexibility in there. And, all of these things imply time as well. I know that many of us are looking to lose weight very, very quickly, but you have to consider that most people, unless there was some major health issue, didn't just gain the weight overnight. It took time. And so you've got to give the same respect to your body, that you gave gaining the weight, that you give losing the weight. So take the time, allow yourself some flexibility, give yourself some grace, but stay committed to whatever plan you are embarking upon to lose your weight. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. All right, so prepping for meal prep. So I mentioned this earlier. Can you prep for meal prep? Well, actually, yes. And you probably should if you are actually looking to try to lose weight. So before meal prepping, you will want to know what you are planning to cook. And this is important because it's actually going to help you with determining what your shopping list is going to look like, is going to help you understand the amount of time that you're going to need to spend prepping, which is another important point I'm going to mention because that can be a bit cumbersome. It will also help you prepare meals that will actually help you lose weight. And so let me talk about a little bit about what I mean by that. So let's start with talking about what is a calorie. So what's in a calorie? Well, first of all, I want to state something that I don't know that a lot of people understand and why this matters is that calories are actually really a measure of energy, right? So when you see, oh, this cookie or this cake has 200 calories, um, what we're thinking is most of us is, oh, if I consume that, that's, that's what I'm going to gain in weight. And that is the way that a lot of people think. But I want to shift your way of thinking about this. So calories in the food that we consume supply our bodies with the energy that we need to sustain our lives. So when we eat food and they're broken down to release their energy. So if I eat that cookie and it has 200 calories in it, either my body is going to use that 200 calories right away, or if I don't have a physical need to use that 200 calories right away, I'm just sitting and hanging around and eating that cookie, then chances are, if I haven't been active and don't plan to be active for the day, it's going to be stored for later use. And stored for later use usually means as fat. Okay. So whatever we consume has energy in it. Our body is going to be using that energy or storing it depending on what we consume. So why this is important is because for us to just exist, our body needs a certain amount of calories that we have to consume in order to just be here, to breathe, to have our normal daily functions. And then add on to that, if we are an active person, there may be additional caloric needs that we have to have in order to not only live and exist, but also to be active as well. And so that's important to understand. Everything we consume is going to the use of either our body moving and shaking and doing things and living life and being active and picking up kids and going to exercise and going on vacation, all of these things. So it's important for you to understand what your caloric needs are and understand what your weight goals are so that you can choose meals that have a caloric limit that will allow you to get to a place where you're actually losing weight. So the question you ask me now, I know, is okay, well, how do I know what that is? Well, let's talk a little bit about how do you know what that is and what it really is, like what that number looks like for you, like how it's calculated. So that number is called total daily energy expenditure, and TDEE for short. And basically, it's the total amount of energy that a person uses in a day, just to be whatever it is to be. What I might use might be different than what you might use, because I might get up at the crack of dawn and start my day at 4 a.m. and not end my day till 9 and on the go the whole time in between. So my total daily expenditure, the amount of energy that I need to keep going for that amount of time, might be different than the next person who, may have a busy life, but sits and is very stagnant. And so they may not need as much energy or calories in order to sustain themselves. So for you to determine for yourself specifically, you want to determine what your total daily energy expenditure is. And a lot of times, not a lot of times, specifically what this calculation takes into consideration your basal metabolic rate, which is BMR. That's basically the energy you burn while you're just at rest, and not just any kind of rest. When you are sleeping and you don't have any digestive anything going, you're not digesting food, it is what your body needs in order to just be at rest. That's the amount of energy it burns. And then what is your actual activity level? So that is deliberate and non-deliberate. And by deliberate and non-deliberate, I mean deliberate is exercising. You go to the gym. And then non-deliberate is just your regular movements around the house. If you have a job where you're on your feet, or if you have a job where you're not, all of that combined. And then the thermic effect of food. I really, really have been itching to really talk about this piece. And this is the amount of energy required by the body to process and use food. And the reason I want to mention this is because as you are creating your meal plan, it's important to understand that some foods actually require your body to burn more energy, burn more calories just to process that food than others. It will take more energy for you to burn protein than it does for you to burn fat. So what that means is you're going to want to consume more protein because your body's going to burn more calories if you are consuming protein. And as a result, protein takes longer for your body to break down, so you're not hungry as quickly. So that's something to really understand. So back to what I was talking about with TDE, it takes into consideration BMR, activity level, and thermic effect of food. And there is a calculator that I have embedded in the resources section of this presentation that you can click on. It's extremely simple. You put in your weight, you put in what your uh, age is, and then it's going to ask you just a little bit about your actual activity so that it can properly calculate what your basic TDE is. And so for me, based off of my information that I input, my total daily energy expenditure just to be, not to lose weight, just to live my life how I've been living it, is 2,069. That will keep me at the current weight that I'm at. Okay, well, I don't want to be at the current weight that I'm at. So if you're looking to lose weight, you will have to make sure that you eat in a deficit of whatever your TDE calories are. For me, mine are 2,069. So if I'm looking to lose a pound by the end of the week, then that means that I have to subtract off each day from that 2,069 an additional 500 calories every day for 7 days. And by the end of the week, I should have lost 1 pound. 1 pound requires 3,500 calorie deficit by the end of the week. Or you can just break it up by 500 calories each day if that's easier. There's a variety of different ways that you can get yourself into this deficit. If you attended the workshop that I did yesterday, it was on intermittent fasting, and that was also a strategy that you can use to incorporate into your meal prepping. There are a lot of very, very flexible ways that you can achieve this deficit of 3,500 calories. So, if I say I'm trying to lose weight and I want to, I'm at 2,069 and I want to cut 1 pound for the week, then what that means is that brings my calories down for each day, somewhere around 1,569 calories each day is what I need to be consuming. So why that's important is as we start to talk about meal prepping, that helps me to understand, well, if I need to make sure I'm only consuming close to 1,600 calories, 15 to 1,600 calories, then I need to choose meals that are not going to exceed that. Otherwise, it's likely I won't lose my 1 pound. Or if I do, I'm going to have to do a whole heck of a lot more activity than, what I've been doing in order to get to that deficit. But it's far easier to frame your food intake in a way in which it hits that, whatever your deficit is. And it doesn't have to be 1 pound. The thing is, you sometimes need to start off slowly and ease your way in. So it may not be a 500 calorie deficit. You may want to start at 300 or 200. You may not end up with a 1 pound weight loss, but there will be some weight loss there. So that's important to remember. And your body is very smart as you adjust and you're making changes to what you're eating, especially if you're making good changes to what you're eating and you are getting rest, your body is burning calories at rest. You can do really well with weight loss consistently and do it in a way in which you feel good. But this is going to be important for you when you're looking at what kind of meals and what you need to be shopping for. So I would start with determining what your total daily energy expenditure is. What are your calories that you need to maintain your weight? And then, figure out how much you're trying to lose at the end of the week and bring down your calorie intake from there. And that is where you want to start with figuring out what your meals will be so that they don't exceed those calories. So we're talking meal prep, and I mentioned you want to have an idea of what kind of meals you will be eating and making sure they fit into your caloric goals. Um, Meal prep 101 is really important for you to understand is that I don't want people to get overwhelmed. When it comes to doing this, sometimes people get bogged down in a lot of details, and sticking to the basics will be a lot easier. First things first, once you decide like what your meals are going to be, pick meals that will be simple to prep. You can get fancy as you get comfortable and as you get your habit and you get your flow going, but don't start off making super complex meals with a bunch of ingredients that is going to be time consuming and you're reading recipes. Keep it very simple: a protein, a veggie, and a carb. That's what I would stick with if I were you. And then pick the day that you're going to do your meal prepping and make sure you have proper storage containers to store your food because it will make it easier for you to just grab and go. Okay. If you see at the bottom, these containers are actually what I have. And as you can see, it has a protein, a veggie, and a carb. Even though carrots are considered a veggie, they're high in sugar, so they've got a high carb content. But anyway, they have multiple compartments for you to kind of help with also portion control as well. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, and one thing I'll say too with one of the meal prep tips is it doesn't mean you have to meal prep breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What if you're new to meal prepping and you don't want to do all of the work of meal prepping breakfast, lunch, and dinner? You can start with just meal prepping breakfast or just meal prepping lunch. Especially if you're the type of person that is like, you know what, I'm just going to do a shake for breakfast. I don't need to meal prep that. And I'm just going to grab a salad for lunch. Well, maybe you only meal prep your dinner. Okay. All right, so in this slide deck, I also have a actual downloadable resource for you to actually download a grocery list, a meal plan and grocery list. It's nice sometimes to be able to write things out so that you have an idea of what you're going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then that helps you understand, okay, what are the things I already have in my refrigerator? Because that helps you to prevent you from spending money on things that you already have. And then what are the things that I need in order to complete my meal prepping? And so if you're anything like me, you have to go to multiple stores. So it's also helpful for me to have which stores I need to go to. But I will have a downloadable resource for you in the resources section of this particular slide deck so that you can use it if you think it will be helpful for you. So step one, list making before you go to the grocery store. Once you know what you're making, make your list. Know what you're shopping for. It might even be a very good idea for you to choose foods that can be multi-purposed, like spinach. Spinach is one of those things you can put in breakfast. You can also have it in your lunch. You can have it in your dinner. That is very, very helpful. The other thing is don't buy what you already have. That's why that list is helpful, to check what you already have before you go out into the world and start grocery shopping. Okay. Step two, it's shopping time. This is very, very important. If you don't do anything else, bullet number one is going to be extremely important. Eat before you go shopping. If you go shopping while you're hungry, there is a very good chance you are going to impulse buy things that you wouldn't normally purchase while you were on your weight loss or healthy eating journey. Okay. Shop alone. Sometimes shopping alone is very helpful to prevent impulse buying from a wife, a spouse, or kids. Leave them at home and take them to more fun places when you get back. Okay. And then stick to your list. Go to the grocery store, get what's on your list, and get out. Don't let it be an all-day affair, because the longer you're in the grocery store, the more likely it is you're going to be purchasing things you don't really need. It's how I am when I go into Target. So I try not to go into Target because I always end up leaving with things I don't need. The other thing that can be helpful, and also from a wellness standpoint and a standpoint of getting you more fresh and quality vegetables, are going to farmers markets to shop for your fruits and veggies. So you can often get healthy fruits and vegetables from your local farmers, free of harmful pesticides, and a lot of times at a pretty decent price. And then keep your meal prep simple. I mentioned this before. Avoid complicated recipes, okay? The easiest way to stay on track with your eating goals is just keep your meals simple. Also, another helpful tip that I hope that you take with you is prep your healthy snacks, especially if you are not only on a healthy eating weight loss journey, but you are also working out. When you start to work out, it's inevitable that you will likely be hungry. Make sure you have snacks that you can reach for, that you can feel good about, and you feel good when you're eating them, okay? So think about what kind of snacks are ones that will fit into your caloric goals, that will allow you to still stay in a deficit and lose the weight, but also will help you feel satiated. Okay. So that's things like low fat cottage cheese and fruit. That's something that I like. I found some small batch nut butters that are high in protein, low in sugar. And I usually pair those with a bit of a quarter of an apple for me. That works out well. It helps kill my sweet tooth. And I also feel like I have been satiated with that. And then tracking your meals, that's kind of, I think when you first start out with meal prepping and you first start out with trying to lose weight, it's a good idea to try to track your meals, because it allows you to stay aware of what you're eating or overeating. It also helps you identify any eating habits that might be stalling your weight loss. Or the overconsumption of one or more macro, and by macro, I mean carbs or protein or fat. You might not even be realizing you're consuming so much fat or so many carbs. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm not losing weight. I'm not losing weight at the pace that I should be losing it. Well, if you are tracking your meals, you will easily be able to go to like what you've been eating. And most calorie trackers or meal trackers will allow you to see the amounts of all the different macros you're consuming along with the calories. So you can see, I even have one that I use. It is called Carb Manager, even though I'm not on a particularly low carb diet, but Carb Manager, it actually has insights, and the insights show you what types of food you've been eating a lot of, and they have the highest calorie count. So you can look and see kind of like, okay, why am I not losing weight? What's going on? What am I eating? So I do think it's good in the beginning. It could be great for someone who is just trying to figure out their meals. Maybe not so much as someone who eats the exact same thing all the time and they just kind of, stick to it. But even then, it could be helpful because every now and then people have some things that they munch on, they get a taste for, and they kind of incorporate it into what they're eating, not realizing that it might be the culprit of stalling weight loss. So I just put this up because I think the picture is really pretty, but also I have made this particular meal before. This is really a one sheet pan meal, where you can put everything all on one sheet pan and put it in the oven. And then lastly, here are all the resources that I talked about. This will be available for download. And that concludes the content for today's workshop. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you found this to have information that you can use. And if you, were looking for resources, I hope this was able to provide you with some resources that you might possibly need. Thank you for joining today's session and have a great day.